Streaming at Blue Jays Nation live on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel. This is the On Feck Circle, presented by jaysfromthecouch.com and the Jays from the Couch radio podcast. You can also catch the live stream every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Jays from the Couch Facebook channel, as well as if you happen to be Twittering your evening away, you can go to @JaysFromCouch, the Jays from the Couch Twitter handle, and you can catch the live feed right there. I'm your host, Steve Feck. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the On Feck Circle. Don't forget, too, this is just one of the shows we bring to you via YouTube and Facebook and all the goody live streaming areas that you can think of. Sunny Side of the Dome with my friend and colleague Karen Suter. She comes at you Thursday, same time as right now, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a Blue Jays fan's dream because it's a Blue Jay fan show produced by a Blue Jay fan, Karen Suter, and you don't get to be a bigger fan of the Blue Jays than if you're Karen. This week she's going to continue her review and analysis of the Blue Jays pitching situation. She's going to focus primarily on the pitchers available via the trade market and free agent market. So Ross Atkins, it would really be helpful if you tuned in so Karen can tell you what you need to do to get us a little bit higher in the projections that came out this week. And then, of course, you need to visit the mothership. Sundays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is the Jays from the Couch radio podcast hosted by our founder and chief coucher, Sean Doyle. That is available anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. If Jays from the Couch is not offered where you get your podcast, you need to get your podcasts somewhere else. So the thing I like about the little wordplay with On Feck Circle and On Deck Circle, if you've ever had the opportunity to play professional baseball or even just amateur baseball or softball, or if you've sat just to the side behind the dugout and you look out sort of from the viewpoint of the batter on the on deck circle, you really take in everything that's going on in the field. You can look at the pitcher, is he dropping his arm angle if he's thrown a breaking pitch? You can see how the catchers are setting up. You can see how your own teammate might be positioned in the box based on what he's seeing coming at him. But you also could be looking up in the stands and you can see some fat guy like me with a beer in each hand, dancing topless to some bad pop song that nobody should ever hear again, but they always seem to be playing him in the ballpark. But you also really get the whole picture. No matter whether you're trying to be technical and seeing what's going on in the game strategically, or whether you're just being entertained by what's going on in the ballpark around you, the on deck circle gives you that kind of vista. So the on feck circle tends to look at things from a bigger picture perspective. I'm certainly not an analytics guy. I mean, I can add 1 and 1, but for some reason, with some advanced metrics, 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2 unless there's a plus or it's weighted. So I tend to stay away from that. I have always tried to follow the minor leagues, but I'm not a minor league guru by any means. And certainly now, after almost 2 years without minor league baseball, it's kind of tough to even remember who the affiliates are. But the on feck circle is going to make you look at the game differently. Even when you're looking at this, you're still going to be able to focus on the Blue Jays and what might be laying ahead for them. I want to touch just on a really quick news item. I'm sure many of you have already heard about it. Major League Baseball and the Players Association came to agreement on health and safety protocols. I'm not going to run down through them all because they're available, at all these different sources. I really want to focus on the roster limits and how they're going to be comprised. 26-man rosters, different from last year, where they were 28 or 30, and they seem to vary back and forth. But 26-man, I think that's perfect. It allows you to carry an extra catcher or an extra bench bat or an extra pitcher if you need to. My only concern when it comes to the Blue Jays would be the five-man taxi squad, which would be, depending on the approach, you have to think, okay, do you want someone like Alejandro Kirk or TJ Zoik or any young player that has a chance to further their development by getting repetitions and getting innings and getting at bats at the minor league level? Would you not rather have guys like that, even a Jonathan Davis, though I think Davis will be at least on the taxi squad? Wouldn't you rather have those guys getting regular at bats? Because at this point, the Blue Jays lineup, it's pretty settled. Blue Jays pitching staff, Ross Atkins and his Atkins innings diet seems to prescribe that everything's set there. I mean, I have my doubts. I'm going to let Karen on Sunny Side of the Dome dive more into pitching. But what do you do? Okay, what do you want the Blue Jays to do? Do you want them to give the young guys a chance, at least to start the season? I'm not saying that come after the All-Star break or or if an injury comes up, you don't bring up a Kirk or you don't bring up one of your stud starters. But I say, let's sign some veteran bench bats. Yes, Marwin Gonzalez. I know he heard trash cans banging and, oh my God, how can we even think about signing him? We signed George Springer, and I'm pretty sure he played for the same team, and the same thing happened there. So if you're okay with George Springer signing, you should be okay with the Marwin Gonzalez signing. But that five-man taxi squad, Travis Shaw coming back, any of the many veteran bats that are out there, sign them to minor league deals or incentive laden major league deals, and let those kids get those repetitions in the minors going forward. That's my really only take for this week about that. I'm sure there'll be lots of talk and there'll be articles about the health and safety protocols at jaysfromthecouch.com. But I just think that's really important to kind of plant that seed now in spring training. So as you're watching some of the reserve players, get at bats during spring training games, okay, maybe you wouldn't think about them on the 26-man roster, but would you rather maybe have a more veteran guy with minor league experience taking one of those slots as opposed to dooming Kirk to getting almost no at-bats? I mean, I'm not wild about having Reese McGuire be the backup catcher. I think it's time that the Blue Jays move on, give him up for Lent, if you will, since Lent's coming up here in a little bit. But I think for the short term, while Kirk gets some at bats, keep McGuire on the roster unless you pick up somebody, during spring training and kind of go forward from there. The main topic I wanted to touch on, there's actually two topics I'm going to talk about this week. The main topic I want to talk about is the infield alignment. And I was watching MLB Network like I almost always do every day, even if I'm in class or I'm doing some work or I'm moving around the house. One of my sets has MLB Network on pretty much during my entire waking hours. So toward the end of the opening segment, they're discussing, the A's trade with the Rangers and the idea of Marcus Semien. Why didn't the A's sign Marcus Semien back? And Matt Beskersion revealed during that interview that, according to Shai Davidi, who hopefully he is recovering well, I believe he had an appendectomy from what I understand. Maybe that's why we haven't seen a lot from him over the last couple of days. But he said that Shai Davidi was reporting that the Blue Jays were really considering keeping Biggio at second, moving Bichette to third, and having Semien play at short, which honestly makes all the sense in the world. And I know all the reports. Semien knew he was going to play second base, and Bo will be upset because he wants to be a shortstop. Well, Vlad Guerrero wants to be a third baseman. He's not a third baseman. and he won't be a third baseman, at least not on a regular basis anytime soon. Kevin Biggio is ranked as the fifth best second baseman, according to the infamous shredder that MLB.com and MLB Network always touts as far as ranking its players in Major League Baseball. So, again, the Semien signing was just stupid rodeo clown stuff on the part of Atkins. I'm sorry. Some of you might think, boy, I skew way too negative. I'm not trying to be negative. Again, I'm in the on-FX circle. I'm looking out at the big picture. I don't see where Marcus Semien, I don't see his value being worth the $18 million that could have been spent getting an actual third baseman or adding to the pitching rotation. But that's not the topic right now. I made that very clear last week that it was a rodeo clown move. But with that infield alignment, you keep Vladdy at first. He can rest and play some games at third. That's fine. And I'm sure Biggio will play all over the place eventually. I'm sure you'll see Semien maybe even slide over to third base. But Semien, at his best, is a good major league shortstop. It makes no sense to play him out of position at second base and then have Biggio play, in theory, out of position at third base just to keep Bo Bichette happy. You need to have the most effective lineup, not only with the bat, and we're going to talk about PECOTA projections in a little bit. They're going to score runs, but you need to prevent runs as well. And especially with the pitching step at the prize now, it would be really helpful to have your best defensive players at each defensive position that you can possibly put out there. Semien at shortstop makes sense. Biggio at second base makes sense. Keeping Vladdy on the infield, getting him more reps at first base, hoping that he feels more comfortable, makes sense. So now you got Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, he's a good shortstop. It's not like he should be moved, but the Blue Jays have set this cluster banging up by signing Marcus Semien and not getting a third baseman. So somebody's going to be out of position. Somebody's going to be unhappy along the way. Biggio, despite what all the number police will tell you, can be a very effective third baseman, but he's obviously considered a superior second baseman. So you ask Bo to move to third. And Bo Bichette has an appreciation for baseball history. His dad was a major leaguer, just like a lot of the core players had fathers that played in the major leagues or at high levels in international play. Cal Ripken moved from short to third. A-Rod moved from short to third. Even his dad's good buddy, Vinny Castilla, he was a great shortstop in the Atlanta Braves system. He moved from short to third with the Rockies, and that paid pretty handsome dividends. And honestly, the best way to keep Bo Bichette in the lineup, I believe, over the long term, is to move him either to second base, but ideally move him to third base, solve the problem. He has the athleticism that sure he's going to struggle at first. He's not going to Vladdy Guerrero struggle. He's not going to Brandon Drury struggle, but he's going to struggle some. Move him to third base now. Let him see, can I do it? And my guess is at first he's going to be going to bristle a little bit, say, oh, I really want to be a shortstop. I wanted to be an NBA point guard. I'm short, I'm fat, I have an awful shot. So I didn't have a chance to be an NBA point guard. Bo Bichette could be an adequate third baseman, or he's better than adequate as a shortstop, but as a third baseman, I think the sky's the limit. You're lessening the risk of him tweaking a knee or hurting an ankle, trying to turn a double play. in the big picture, again, from the on-fec circle, big picture, looking at what's going on, Bo Bichette could very well be the answer at third base. And if you're only going to move guys around for 1 year anyway, why not take that gamble with Bichette? And Bichette has a higher upside as a third baseman than Biggio would be shipping to third. And since Simeon's only on a 1 year deal, if you have Biggio and Bichette now settled as well as Guerrero at first, do you not now become a major player on what is a super shortstop market next season, next off season? Trevor Story, Carlos Correa, Seager, Lindor is probably going to re-sign for the Mets, but technically he's in that discussion. So why not? You obviously didn't get the third baseman or the infielder that you really wanted. You settled on Marcus Semien because of the intangibles that he's going to bring to the locker room and his veteran presence. Everybody says he's a great teammate. You've already spent the money. You've made the mistake, Ross. Let's think about looking at it. I know Charlie Montoyo is trying to keep the peace on everybody's thing. Oh, Vladdy will get a shot at third base. Ross kind of grudgingly says, well, Vladdy will certainly get repetition at third base. Just settle on an infield lineup and say, this is what we're going to do for this year. If Bo really gets disgruntled, that maybe colors what you do with him as far as long term. If he's going to maybe not be the team player. But my guess is Bo Bichette, along with Kevin Biggio, are the two players that you can mess around with, if you will, and affect their development, which is another fancy term for let's just, keep things as we have them. They can adjust. They have the maturity. They have the baseball sense, and they know what it takes to win. Bo can even talk to his older brother, who came up and was drafted as a third baseman. Well, he didn't come up. He was in the Yankee system. So he has some people that he can reach out to and talk to about whatever adjustments to third base. But personally, the infield alignment should be Vladdy at first, Biggio at second, Semien at short, Bichette at third. I've heard that from various sources that the Jays are thinking about that. Of course, publicly, nobody has come out and said that because the Jays don't do anything publicly, rather than giving their fans an idea of what they might be thinking or what they should look forward to in the team. They just keep things, close to the vest. We can't reveal our deep, dark secrets of what our plans are for 2021. I mean, they won't even admit that they're going to open the season in Dunedin. And everybody knows it at this point. It's not like it's some great secret. Okay. We're not talking about rock, I'm not even going to go there. But basically, they won't even commit and come out and say that. And spring training basically is just a little over a week away. Just come clean and say we're going to play the opening weeks at least in Dunedin. Okay. Be honest. If you're thinking about moving Bo to third, do it now. Come forward. Explain your rationale, the reason that you want to move Bichette to third as opposed to moving Biggio to third. Would Biggio and Semien be a better double play combo than Bichette and Semien playing out of position? I would absolutely say so. So you're also helping the pitching staff that you haven't done anything about really trying to bolster, other than some bullpen arms. You still have a big glaring hole in the rotation. The other thing I want to talk about, and these have been kind of trickling out, but today the most recent PECOTA projections, which are always the much ballyhooed, much waited for projections about where a team may be, were released, or at least information started to leak out. Unfortunately, you have to subscribe to actually get a downloadable copy or whatever. But As far as the AL East is concerned, I'm going to try to bring it up here on my phone while I'm stalling for time. They have the Blue Jays projected at 85 wins, third place in the American League East, which means they will not be a playoff team. They have the Rays a game ahead of them, and for some reason they have the Yankees with 96 wins winning the AL East. There's a lot of things that have to go right for that scenario to happen, I think, in the division. They did rightly project that Boston's going to be better this year. They have them at between 80 and 81 wins, depending on which PECOTA projection that you're looking at. But the thing that jumped out at me, too, is, of course, they have them scoring lots of runs, second most in the division, but they have them with one of the worst runs surrendered numbers projected out over the course of the season. So take it with a grain of salt. Projections are just that. PECOTA has some interesting ones in other divisions that really, we care about other divisions, not really till the playoffs, or at least until September. Then we start worrying about other divisions and who's in a wild card spot. But right now, based on the fact that they have not gotten that number 2 starter or significantly improved the rotation, and they're talking about Simeon at second and Biggio at third, or bouncing all over the place and not really having a regular third baseman, that factors into how many runs that they feel the Jays are going to give up. So luckily they've got a great offense and a great lineup that's going to score a bunch of runs, but they're going to nothing can go wrong offensively, because they're going to need to make up for that difference there. But since we had the PECOTA projections, I have my own projections as well that I'm going to share with you tonight. And it's going to be really on how I see the lineup and why I think people should bat where they're going to bat in the lineup. They're called, the Fekete universal projections. We're going to just shorten it and call it the FECU projections, because basically, depending on whether you agree with me or not, FECU is kind of an appropriate way to refer to all the information that I'm going to share with you here. Now, again, as I said earlier in the show, I do not heavily rely on analytics. They can help you make an argument for just about anything, depending on which one that you use. And anything that has to be adjusted, weighted, or has a plus at the end, that means that they're coming up with another explanation as to why they have to have this new calculation, because they didn't like the answer of just runs created or on base average. So they have to weight it somehow and figure out, oh my God, but this guy pitches in this park and this happens then. Well, you know what? That's happened throughout the entire history of baseball. If you know you're pitching in a hitter's park, you're going to come up with a different approach in the way you pitch. If not, you're going to get knocked all around the ballpark. It doesn't matter that you can't go into arbitration and say, well, gee, my adjusted ERA based on the position of, Mars and Venus in the sky when I pitched. You can't use that in arbitration and advance your salary things. You need to adjust to what's given. Sitting with hitters. Everybody jumps all over Rockies hitters. They're blessed. They're playing in a hitter's park. Cincinnati Reds, hitter's park. Philadelphia Phillies, hitter's park. So forget about all this weighted adjustment stuff. The FECU projections are based on actually watching baseball games. Not just, on TV for once a week or whatever. I watch virtually every Blue Jay game. I certainly watch on the average between 2 and 4 baseball games a day. I live in a National League city, so I'm lucky that way. I've lived mainly in National League cities most of my life, so I've had the strong exposure to the National League players. And I know how to watch a baseball game and see and base my outcomes and my projections based on how I actually see players perform. Okay, I had the wherewithal back in 1990 to go to the winter meetings. I actually got an interview with the Atlanta Braves. I was a Bird Dogs regional scout for the Marlins in 92 and 93. That doesn't make me, a baseball god, but obviously somebody saw something in me. The John Sherholtzes and the Gary Hughes of the world saw something. I must have brought something to the table as far as how I view what's going on in the field. That would at least get an opportunity to interview with the Braves and serve as a scout, even though only one guy signed, so I didn't make much money out of it. But it was a great way to spend a couple of summers watching, various minor league and college and high school games here in Western Pennsylvania. So according to the FECU projections, I have Kevin Biggio at the top of the lineup leading off. And I know Springer has been a tremendous leadoff hitter, and you can come up with all kind of arguments as to why you would maybe want to flip Springer to the top. I think Biggio knows how to work a count. He knows how to get on base. He should be at the top of your batting order. You bat Springer second. A lot of great hitters are now being moved into that number 2 slot. Mike Trout pops into my head as one that often hits in the number 2 slot. I think Biggio, Springer, that's an awesome start. You slide Bo down into the 3 hole because in the long run, unless we really anger him by moving him to third base like I suggested earlier, you have your star. He's going to be the biggest star that the Blue Jays develop out of their system. Vladdy, you give him the cleanup spot. And I see the question, Biggio number 9 works even better. Honestly, that's what I had been proposing for a long time, that you bat someone like Biggio at the bottom of the order. I made a change to that. I'm going to explain that in a second. It really does revolve around Marcus Semien signing. But Biggio batting 9 is perfect. It is smart to have good on-base guys, good hitters in the 8 and 9 slot when you have productive hitters at the top. So if you went Springer 1 and Bichette 2, and then you kept Biggio at 9, that lineup works really, really well. So I have no objections to that one. But for my little exercise for my FECU projections, we're going to keep Biggio at the top, Springer 2, Bo 3, Vladdy 4. You're showing confidence. You're saying you can't play third base, Vladdy, but you can be our cleanup hitter. So bat Vladdy in the cleanup spot, give him a chance to shine and show what he can do. You bat T.O. 5th, but you DH him. He's not your everyday right fielder. He's your DH. In the 6 hole, you have Gold Glove candidate Lourdes Gurriel. I was almost tempted to have Gurriel DH and T.O. play every day in right field or left field. I think Gurriel potentially is going to be a better outfielder, so you keep him in left field on an everyday basis. You bat him 6. You bat Danny Jansen 7. And you do that for 2 reasons. One, I think Danny Jansen is going to be the breakout player for the Blue Jays this year, more as a catcher, more defensively. But I think he's going to go back and show us a lot more of the offensive potential that he's had there. And then that opens up starting Marcus Semien 8th, good productive hitter, can get on base, has the work counts. And you bat Randall Grichuk, who's going to be your starting right fielder. You bat him 9th. That's why Biggio's not 9. I don't think you can bat Grichuk at the top of the lineup, but don't you want Grichuk's power potential down at the bottom of the lineup to drop some people in? I think you do. So according to the FECU projections, Biggio leading off at 2nd, Springer in center field batting 2nd, Bo Bichette is your third baseman batting 3rd, Vladdy at 1st, T.O. as your DH, Gurriel in left, Danny Jansen as the catcher, and that opens up when Kirk comes on. It opens up giving Kirk a chance to be a productive hitter and get a little bit of protection there in the 7 hole. And then you have Semien 8 and you have Grichuk 9. Another question coming up. I have a feeling that Grich will be on another team by opening day. I really believe that all along. The reason why I think Grichuk will be on the Blue Jays at least to start the season, is to borrow from Major League Two. And I forgot the name of the Japanese outfielder. And he went and he accused one of his teammates of not having the marbles. I don't think Ross Atkins has the marbles, the huevos, to make an effective deal to get the pitcher that they need. I think it's going to have to. The market's going to have to come to him. He obviously doesn't know how to go to the market. I like Grichuk. If he's going to be on the opening day roster, I think you do need to play him every day. Defensively, he's a much better outfielder than Hernandez. He's a better outfielder than Gurriel for that point. But hopefully, at least to start the season, Grichuk is with the Blue Jays, and batting him in the 9 hole, I think, would get the most out of him and help make that lineup balanced top to bottom. Well, hard to believe, but time is running out on the On-Fec Circle. I really do appreciate you tuning in every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook page and at Jays from Couch Twitter. You can catch this live show. You all see people are calling in already. They think my ideas are just amazing and they're just terrific. But basically, you can also tune in on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunny Side of the Dome. Karen Suter, terrific show. Her first 2 shows have been dynamite. She's talking pitching this Thursday. And of course, on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the live recording and live streaming of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast. I'm Feck. Be back with you next week. Thanks for tuning in.